day, same me, still vexed and hungry. You get me? New boots, same foot, same street. The sun don't rise in the west and there's no rescue out of Babylon scene. More time you gotta move like a pagan, a righteous path is extortionate. Fam, what's good for the goose ain't good for the alligator. You gotta sponsor your own campaign. Don't look for the news, don't wait for the propaganda. Never move like sheep on a farm and a leader. You know I ignore policy, so the boy them are always gonna try chat shit. But I saw the thing set my dog. When you're born and raised in the ghetto, the streets will turn you into a savage. Know what it is, know what it is, man.
All right, we are live. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a UK garage banger type beat. I'm going to be going track for track again, so let's start with this first track. I started this idea off with a sample that I found on Splice, and it sounds like this. So I found that sample, I chopped it up as you can see, and then I went and found the bass notes. So a cool technique that I use to find bass notes for samples is grabbing Spectrum. I use this preset called Accurate Fast. If I enlarge this here, you play the sample and you look for the lowest note that's playing. So right here, that's an F. So the bass note for that would be an F. So all of these chops, they're all F. They're all hitting on the F note. But then this part here, it hits on a C sharp. So basically, the bass would be F and C sharp, the notes that you play on your bass. So after I had that, I threw a multi-band dynamics. It's not really doing anything. I threw it on there. It's a technique I use to take the mids out. So this would be the mid channel here, and I just lowered it by 4 dBs. I'm making room for the vocals. That's basically the thinking behind that technique. You could also do it with an EQ, but I find that the multi-band dynamics is a little bit faster. You could just move that down. Then I am chopping the lows pretty harshly. I'm going up to 300 hertz. I have a high shelf going down, and that's pretty much it for this sample. Moving on to the next one, we have this little sound here. Kind of sounds like a cell phone, like when your cell phone vibrates or something. But it's a like sound effect. It's like little blip noises. What I did was I pitched it down, and then I used the Complex Pro. I turned the format down. I mean, you could easily use Complex, but sometimes when you use the Complex Pro, it kind of has like a stereo enhancing effect. Should try it out. Sometimes it doesn't, but it just kind of has that splitting effect to it. Next, I do have this sample here. Just little laser sound effects. And that with the sample sounds like this. So, pretty cool little loop. I did group it, so I do have group processing here. I'm using, I believe this plugin is called Pitch 89, Pitch Loop 89. It's a Max for Live device. I don't know if it comes with the intro, but if you get Suite, it should come with it for Ableton. But I'm using a preset called Minor Triad. So this is basically just a delay plugin, and it splits the channel so you have your left and right, and you can adjust the delay times for the left and right, and it kind of gives you like a weird vintage like tape delay effect. So let me solo this and I'll show it to you on and off. So it kind of sounds like a chorus. I thought that was pretty cool, so I threw that on. EQ just rolling off the lows. And then I have a track spacer here. So what this is doing is it is ducking, it's like a side chain, but it is ducking the melodics group to the vocal. So every time the vocal is going on, it's taking out the frequencies that the vocal is occupying so that there is no clashing. It's a cool plugin. I do recommend you guys try it. It's not too expensive. I think it's like $60. But this is what that sounds like with the track spacer on. So as you can see, it is ducking the vocal frequency. So let me solo the vocal here.
New day, same me, still vexed and hungry. You get me? New boots, same foot, same street. Savage. The sun don't rise in the west, and there's no rescue out about.
So it's pretty subtle, but kind of cleans up the mix a little bit. And like I said, it fights against the clashing because the vocal, usually they occupy the mid frequencies, and that's where usually the melodic parts of chords and melodies, they occupy that too. So having a little bit of ducking going on really helps. And it also makes the vocal a little bit more present. Okay, got that. And then I just have this auto filter here. I don't think I'm using it at all, so I could just delete that. Okay, melodic's done. Oh, I do also have this vinyl noise. It's just effects down 24 dB. It's just more of background noise. Sounds like this. I usually throw vinyl effects just to fill out the frequencies, but it's not mandatory at all. You could also use field recordings. So next I have the bass group here. I'm going to solo the whole bass group so you can hear what all the basses are doing. So cool little bass line. Has a lot of call and response. Typically for tracks that are pretty minimal like this one, I use multiple basses to have that call and response going on. I believe they call it hocketing when you use more than one bass. But this first one is I believe it's an 808 bass that I made in Meld. So Meld, it's pretty easy to use. You have two oscillators, and then they go through the through the filter and then the amp. So if you use this wavetable called TARP, it emulates an 808 sound. And then I just have basic shapes, which is a sine wave right underneath it. So it's kind of that sub layer there. Just filtering on the B oscillator, just taking out the highs. When you move this tone knob, it introduces more higher frequencies on that sine wave, so that's why I have this filter going on. Oscillator A didn't need any filtering, and then I just have a envelope here emulating an 808 bass sound. And that sounds like this. This bass mono utility preset, it's not mandatory, but kind of keeps the signal flow from being stereo. You don't really need to throw it on, but I felt like I needed it on there just because the higher frequencies were a little bit more stereo than the sub. Just keeps the bass sounding cleaner. Then I have a decapitator on there. It's adding a little bit of saturation and distortion on top. As you can see, it's not a lot. Throwing it up to 3. And then just this EQ, again, rolling off the really low sub frequencies at 30 hertz. I have a dip right here around 240. That's just making a little bit of room for the other elements in there. And then there was a little bit of noise coming from the decapitator, so I have this high shelf dipping at about -7 dB. For the next bass here, I do have a, what is this sound?
New day, say.
It's a little bass shot here. It's like a UK bass wobble. It's a preset in Serum. Yeah, pretty much. So it's just sine wave. As you can see, no effects on there. And then it has this wavetable. I believe it's some sort of sine compression going on. And then just an LFO on the levels to give it that wobble. That's pretty much it. Simple sound. And then I have this hit here. FM bass sounding, because it is an FM bass, but it's a preset. I think I found this one on Splice. Didn't touch it. Again, it's 2 sine waves being FM'd to each other. Has that low sub filter modulation going on. And some reverb on there. Hyperdimension, distortion. I'll do another video on FM basses, but just letting you know that this is a preset. I don't think I touched it at all. It sounded right, so I left it as it is. As for the bass group processing, I do have little radiator on there. Let me A and B it for you.
New day.
So super subtle. I have the mix down all the way almost. It has this noise knob. It's just a cool little plugin. Kind of adds like static and distortion when you throw it on your bass group. So if you have like iPhone headphones and all that, plays through it. And then I'm just cutting the real low sub area around 30 hertz, so it's a lot cleaner. And then I do have a side chain going on here. I'm using Duck by Devious Machines. I normally use Kickstart, but I got this new plugin and it works really good. It's the same. It's a volume automation, so it's ducking it that way, and it's just ducking for that kick to come through. Cool. On to the next. I do have vocals here. So we do have a Flowdan acapella. You could find it on YouTube. It sounds like this.
New day, same me, still vexed and hungry. You get me? New boots, same foot, same street. Savage. The sun don't rise in the west and there's no rescue out of Babylon scene.
So any Flowdan acapella sounds good on UK Garage, drum and bass. Just it matches. So that's there. There's no processing on it. Sounded good in the mix already. But then I also have this sort of vocal chop sample I found on Splice that I threw underneath that vocal. I felt like it added movement, and it sounds like this with the Flow Dan acapella.
New day, same me, still vexed and hungry. You get me? New boots, same foot, same street. The sun don't rise in the west, and there's no rescue out of Babylon scene. More.
So just added a little bit more interest, but the processing here is a chorus, stock Ableton chorus. Didn't touch it. It's at 15%, or I mean 50%. And then I have a phaser here. This is a preset phaser guitar. I think that's stock too. I do have this auto filter for filter automation in the intro part. So it just kind of opens up a little bit. And then track spacer again. So the reasoning for this track spacer is this vocal chop is not the main element of this drop. Flow Dan's vocal is, so I'm side chaining Flow Dan's vocal to this.
No policy, so the boy them are always gonna try chat shit.
So that Flow Dan's vocal is more present than this vocal chop, because they are in the same frequency range. So that's why I threw that on there. And then I have just this vocal chant going every upbeat. I like to throw these on just because they kind of act as a metronome, but it also kind of gives like a sense of movement, like forward movement. And I throw the volume like really down so you can barely hear it, but it does have like some sort of weird effect to the drop. It kind of makes it move forward, so that's why I have that on there. And then just a chorus and a phaser again. The reasoning behind these two is just to make it be more in the background. You're honestly not even really supposed to notice that this is there. But altogether, the vocals sound like this.
New day, same me, still vexed and hungry. You get me? New boots, same foot, same street. The sun don't rise in the west, and there's no rescue out of Babylon scene.
And then I just have this UK Garage drum loop here that I found on Splice. So I use this drum loop just because I had these melodic ideas and I wanted to get the songwriting done pretty much. So don't be afraid to use drum loops or samples. They are there to help you. I mean, even if you wanted to make this your own, you can. You could chop it up. You could make your own drums underneath it. But drum loops and just melodic loops in general are great tools to use. And don't be ashamed to use them. They're there to help you. And then after that, I just have this side chain trigger. I took the kick from this drum loop, copy and pasted it down, and that is triggering the side chains. And that is pretty much it for this track. It's a quick one. I had a busy week, didn't have too much time to record, but I did want to post something for today. I'm going to be trying different stuff on this channel, so I think the next video is going to be a little bit different. But this is the track that I have this week. Hope you learned some stuff, and thanks.